Hello, everybody. My name is Jim Farmer. I'm the festival director of Out on Film Atlanta's LGBTQ Film Festival. This is our 36th year, and we've had some amazing programming this year. One of our popular films has been Norwegian Dream, and we are very lucky today to speak to the director of the film, uh, Leiv Igor
Hi,
Devold. How are you today?
I'm fine. I'm great. It's late evening here in Norway. Yeah, and I'm grateful for have that you decided to screen my film.
Thank you so much for for sharing the film with us and for talking to us today. I'd love to talk to you about what was your inspiration for making this?
I actually had the idea for this film in 2011. So
Oh,
it's been like this is like a passion project. I've been working on it for I don't know, 13, 11, 12 years. The initial inspiration, I guess I got the book from my producer, but it was a totally different story. And then yeah, I developed it for a long, long, long time. But I'm half Polish and half Norwegian. That's why I'm named both Leif and Igor.
okay.
So yeah, so like this question of identity, not only like queer identity, but also identity across borders, across countries, within Europe. Uh, this is something that's like part of my DNA growing up as a Pole in Norway.
Sure.
So I really and also the situation within Europe is quite different, like in Eastern European countries, especially Poland, Hungary, and
Yeah.
obviously Russia is quite bad in parts of those countries, definitely in all of Russia. And then Norway is quite liberal. So and although it's like 2 hours on the plane from Oslo to Warsaw, the situation for the community is quite different, and I wanted to explore that also through a lens of class differences. So yeah, so that was yeah, it was a long, long, long process, and definitely
Sounds like it, yes.
it's a lot of personal experiences, both from me and from the scriptwriter Justina.
How did you go about adapting the book? What changes did you have to make?
We did like I mean at that was back in 2011, so the that was like the book was a queer love story across borders, like between Norway and Poland, but in the end the story is totally different. And but I have done a lot of documentaries before, so I'm inspired by directors like Kieślowski, like Polish director who did a lot of documentaries before. Although today I view his films totally differently than I did when I was young, because yeah, because
Sure.
of many reasons. But like when it comes to especially this inspiration of working through documentary, this was kind of the method for this film. That we did a lot of research. There's a strike story, like a social story in the film. So for that part of the story, we did interviews. We met a lot of people, and yeah, so it was like research based development. And since it took so many years, the story changed a lot from the initial idea. Yeah, so yeah, I could talk about it for hours, but definitely a lot of like talking to people and trying to see different angles and different. For me, like a key word was also always intersectionality, to see kind of how different identities work together to create pressure on the main character.
Exactly. Robert is a young man dealing with a lot of professional issues and a lot of personal issues. Can you talk a little bit about what all he is dealing with at that stage of his life?
Yeah, well, he's from Białystok. It's like the eastern part of Poland. It's not far from the border with White Russia, now called Belarus. And that was one of the cities that was within the so-called LGBT free zones that the Polish government and local municipalities uh, created or voted through in around 2019. So um, So he's dealing with the internalized results of that hate speech politics that was in those parts of Poland around 19, and it still is. And then he's dealing with the migration issue when you're coming to a totally new country. You don't know anybody, you don't know the rules, you don't know how things works in Norway. And although Norway is supposedly like Scandinavia is like a liberal, and we like to think of ourselves as quite egalitarian, that we're, maybe from an American point of view, it would be even like social democrats. But in the, always there are people who are richer and poorer, and also in Norway, unfortunately, people are exploiting, workers to get rich. So these like intersections was something that I worked with to create this pressure, and also not to make the story too simple in a way, because
Sure.
I find often like that when we look at Poland, we forget about and talk about the LGBT free zones and why people in Poland are voting for the super conservative PiS party, the right-wing party. They forget that they feel that that party is actually taking care of, their social issues. So
Yeah.
yeah, and they don't want to vote for the neoliberal party. So
Okay.
yeah, it's complex, and I tried to show this in the story, that it's complicated in a way.
Can you talk about the character of Ivor and how it shakes up Robert's world when he enters the picture?
Yeah, that definitely changes the story, because I think Ivar is a much more freer person, free spirited, and has come a longer way on his journey. And he thinks, I think Robert is cute. He's a handsome young man for sure. Also, the actor Hubert Mikowski is really, really great. He's just awesome. I mean, in so many ways. And he's a great actor. I hope he will be a star. In my eyes, he already is.
Okay.
But yeah, in the story world, it's Ivar is trying to show Robert the ropes, but both at the factory, and also he sees maybe not through, but he sees that there's a love potential there for the relationship, and he tries to kind of. We talked a lot with Hubert, the main actor, that he has a mask, that he's hiding behind this mask, and I think Ivar is trying to kind of see through that mask and open some cracks to have the light come in. But it's not that easy. And
Exactly.
Ivar has his own challenges with his father. So in a way, they start to support each other
Sure.
also.
One of the things I liked about this film is that it works on so many levels. It's about Robert, coming out. It's dealing with his family, dealing with his work environment, dealing with his attraction to Ivar, but also work,
Mhm.
politically as well. But I mean, can you talk about the balance of combining all those and doing it very successfully?
Yeah, it was a challenge to do that, and we worked many years, as I mentioned, with the script, and it was quite important for me, because I think um, somehow sometimes we forget to talk about the whole person, and not like we are so many things at once, all of us, obviously. So we tried to, and it was kind of the key for me in this film, because for me it's about this intersectionality. So we really tried to, get the plots to intertwine, so they together put pressure on both Robert and Ivar. And yeah, it was a lot of work to kind of make the plot points fit together, and to yeah, and to try to make it organically. Actually,
Sure.
I worked with we tried at least for yeah, we had a different approach, me and the scriptwriter Justina Bilic. But for me, I also in this project I tried to work from character. So
Mm.
instead of just using the usual plot-based plot point, turning point, all these things. I was very, very much into developing the characters, like who is Robert and what is he afraid of? Not, not what is his goal necessarily, which is a lot of like male um uh, um script theory, like McKee and all these like guys are like very goal oriented, that the main character has to have a goal, but we try to like develop the character and see how is he, what is he afraid of, what 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 kind of mask does he create, what are his strategies to survive, and what are his unconscious like wants and needs, but also like ideals that he's maybe not aware of yet.
Hmm.
So we try to much more work from character. And I think, all stories are really about character and not necessarily about plot, because every character can react differently on different like incidents. So for me, it was very much character based, the work with the script. And then also for the first time, I worked a lot of time with the actors up front. I've been making a lot of documentaries and short films, and usually I didn't do that much rehearsal. But this time I also worked with like method acting, Stanislavski, the Eastern European
Sure.
theater guru, and we actually had 3 or 4 weeks rehearsals before the shoot. So we also developed the characters a lot with Carl Bekle Steinland, who plays Ivar, and Hubert Minkowski, who plays Robert. So it was really a process-oriented work where we also changed and developed the characters together,
Yeah.
so that both of them could use themselves when they, played the characters.
Sure. Why is why is queer representation so important these days, as well as telling stories like this?
I mean, it has always been important, I feel. I watched some interview with the director of Tongues United, Riggs. What's his name?
Marlon
Yeah,
Riggs. Yeah.
Marlon Riggs. Sorry, I have a terrible yeah, name aphasia sometimes. But yeah, but I watched some old interviews with him from the 80s, and I was kind of it was a little bit, I mean, he's great, but it was also a little bit scary because, some of the issues that we're still dealing with today. I mean, he was talking about the same stuff in the 80s. So,
Exactly.
but definitely things have gone forward. I was just before I talked to you, I looked into the situation for the community in Georgia and Atlanta, and it has obviously gone forward. And also in Norway, has gone a lot forward. But in Poland, for instance, we are, I think, at the crossroad now, unfortunately. Also, with what's partly, I'm not that into what's going on in the States, but I just read the headlines. But in Poland and in Eastern Europe, we are definitely at the crossroad. And also with, all that's happening in Ukraine,
Exactly.
all, yeah. So, so it's a time now where it's so important. I mean, it has always been important, obviously, but it's now also important. And maybe I just hope that we're not like, at least in Poland, we have elections upcoming in 1.5 weeks. And if the peace party is like winning those elections, it might be really, really hard. And also for young, the most scary part for me personally is that 40% of young men between like 19 and 30, I think, they are voting for an even more conservative party to the right of PIS, which
Yes.
is like extreme. And that's kind of scary when you think of that they are, the future.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think representation has always been important, and not to see only the square or like straight stories that we've seen so many times before.
Okay.
And for me personally, I mean there's actually been quite a few queer love stories made in Poland the last years, but when I watched them preparing for this film and also through the years, it was kind of sad that they all had, basically they finished, the end was like, how hard it is, and they were very depressing. So
Mhm.
like for me, like Germ, or like the from the start, it has been like important to make a film that is hopefully uplifting, and has hope. And I think, and I have hope, for sure. And I have learned so much making this film, and the whole process has been, yeah, it's been great also working with the actors. And yeah,
Exactly.
and now it's so cool just to show the film around and get feedback. And if it's a conversation starter, that's great. And but I think for sure the situation in Eastern Europe is extremely pivotal at the moment. And I also want to emphasize that also there are so many people within the queer community in Poland that are also fighting back. So at the moment, actually, like 70% of Poles are supporting same-sex marriages, and that has like risen from 40% in just 10 years.
Mhm.
So I think it's important to mention that, to not victimize the community in Poland, because there are so many great also filmmakers and
Sure.
persons standing up.
Sure. Final question. So what is next for you and what is next for Norwegian Dream?
Um, the film is coming up in cinemas in Germany in November. We're doing a festival in Lübeck, and we just reached 10,000 admissions in Norwegian cinemas actually today.
Great.
And that's quite good for a country with only 5 million inhabitants. It would have been like 80,000, the equivalent for Poland. So no, I'm super happy, and I'm really happy that the film is screened a lot of places in the States. So yeah, and then I'm starting to write on new projects, and developing new ideas. But it's like it's at the start at the moment.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Lee, for sharing this film with us. And thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today.
Thank you very much, and have a great festival. And yeah, good luck, and enjoy the film, I hope.
Thank you.